Have another beer, buddy.
Chatty chat chat chat. I think that they probably said that being shorter is advantageous.
Well, they need to teach me then. There you go. So we had to poke a little fun at him. Call you Ginger Swag.
Yeah. If you weren't bowlers, what would you have liked to have done instead? Anything else. Literally anything else.
That's a great answer.
The horse is so dead that it's on some kid's school project in a landfill already.
And there you have
that one before.
No. We'll talk him into one more.
Terrible idea.
What up?
What's up?
How's it going tonight, everyone? Everybody had a fun weekend. I'm still feeling a little bit of pain from this past weekend.
I'm doing fine.
Well, you were a little.
I was not fine on Saturday when I got there.
That's what I was going to say.
That's the only reason I'm doing fine. Otherwise, I'd likely be in the same situation. But all right, so welcome to episode 44. Someone thank you to the viewer that let me know that it's like, hey, you've got 2 episode 36s.
We're bad at counting.
And then I had to get rid of a couple of them.
Maybe we started drinking too early.
Yeah.
That day.
Yeah. Dumped on the night road a little too hard. Turns out that it was unfair.
Yeah.
And it's nothing that they told me to do. It's just kind of going through the regular troubleshooting, and that's why I tell everybody in all the videos. I didn't have time to, like, something was wonky with them when we got out there the first time. It's kind of like, okay, so we're gonna figure this out. But I didn't have time to get back out. Get back here, resurface the stuff, get back out there, try it again, get the footage, get the whole freaking thing put together before I needed to get a video up. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go on ahead and put this out, say, hey, this looks a little suspect, and then come back and say, okay, well, this is what we did to fix it. However, at the same time, when you do that, it's kind of like you might leave people hanging. It's like people. It's really funny that, when Netflix puts up a new show, they just dump everything up there at the same time. Mm-hmm. When Amazon Prime does it, they do Amazon Prime and Disney do like an episode a week. If people don't like it, like for the first couple episodes before they really, it's like watching the first 30 minutes of a movie and saying, oh gosh, I don't know what's going on. This is stupid, whatever else. Yeah. Releasing it episode by episode. And the way Netflix does it, sure, you can blow through it. Blow through the whole season in a day, and then you got to wait another year and a half to see the rest of it. But they don't seem to have the backlash because everybody on Netflix will watch the whole series or the whole season before they form an opinion. And then you've already got people bitching about the other shows on Prime and Disney if they don't like the first episode or two.
That's fact.
And so that's basically what happened with the Night Road situation. Here I am thinking, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to put this up to begin with, but then I'll come back and check back in, and people are watching the video. Oh, that ball sucks. I'm not getting that. And I'm like, well, I said I was coming back. Like, go watch other videos. Hang on a second. So I just have to.
I get it.
I just have to outsmart myself.
Radius Brewing Company.
Myself.
Thank you to Johnny Clark.
So yeah, thanks. Yeah, we had a fun time. We had a Chilean beer contest. Yeah. On Saturday. And the chili contest is fun. We had 9 entries this year. We do a prize for best chili, best beer, and worst beer. So we have people that are supposed to bring beers. We try to find a really good one and like an awful, like nasty one. Yeah. And if you bring beers, you have to sit and drink with everybody else. So that's part of the thing. If you bring nasty stuff, you're gonna have to drink it too. And so what we do is we either, after we there's 10 of us, we pass around little Dixie cups. We all get a taste, and then we decide, okay, is this like bottom 3, is it top 3, or if it's in the middle? If it's in the middle, we all collectively have to finish it off. So
there's some bad ones.
That's the thing too, is that nobody gets a pass. It's not like you just taste, oh God, that's terrible, and you're done with it. No, at some certain point, you're going to go back and you're going to be drinking everything. And some idiots made the mistake of bringing extras
Yes.
It's like, well, there's 10 people, we can't get more than that. It's like, well,
That's
we
fine.
don't want more than that as some of them.
Especially that cucumber and pickle.
Let's just fill it up. And we got another can. So I'm definitely not. I'm going to go punch people in the.
I posted some pictures from the weekend in the event to Instagram on our Instagram page. So check it out.
Yeah, we are trying to I forgot about Instagram for like a month and a half too. So.
I'm posting in there. So
yeah, so we got some stuff on the breakdown pair, episode 44. Like I said, we do have a special guest that we will bring in here momentarily.
As they're waiting on us.
To talk all things. We're going to talk some Phase 5. We're also going to talk Electrify Go or Electrify Gold Orange.
Yeah.
I think Phase 5, everybody's just forgetting or ignoring the fact that there's a new Electrify coming out too. So.
I'm sure.
All right. Looks like he's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and pull our
special guest
in here and check out the technologies. But it looks like we should be okay. Of course. Testing. No.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Sweet.
Sometimes this stuff doesn't work out. Sometimes it's stupid.
I know this is a different platform from what we used last time. I think we just used Skype last time.
We tried something. We were
Skype, something like that.
Yeah, I think you were on Skype, and we did it through my other streaming software thing.
We had them on the TV behind us.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was. So welcome in, Will Natafee.
Once again, I wish I had one of those buttons where I could do the clapping. Yay!
Yeah.
Sorry, that was cheesy. I know.
Woo!
It's a cheesy show. We sit here and crack up and drink.
Yeah.
So it's nothing.
Do you have a beer?
Yeah.
I do have a beer. It's funny because I was just at the liquor store about half hour ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a local brewery in St. Paul that is called Pull Tabs was the name of the beer.
Mm.
Didn't grab it because I didn't really like it the last time I tried it, but I have Bell's Two Hearted.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
We've had that.
Yeah, we have had that.
Yep.
And my, I think it was my wife's parents got me a Bell's 2-hour glass because her dad drinks it all the time.
That works.
Sweet.
It's one of my favorites now.
Plus, we also, now that we've got him in here too, we've got to talk about the house shot stuff too.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that most of the time. We'll do our little thing now that we can talk about the Phase 5 and the Electrify Go.
Yep. How about
may
it,
or
boys?
may not do a video for that one. It's basically an Electrify Pearl, but as we've seen with this one already, everybody agrees. Whether you watch Darren Tang, Stu, haven't watched Chris Barnes' review yet, but everybody kind of universally agrees that the Phase 5 is not the Phase 4. It's
No.
somewhat. I mean, it's really, that's the funny thing, is it's really not even close. Like the shapes just completely, totally throw it off, and even if it's okay, well, it kind of hooks about the same amount, but the shapes play into which zones you're going to throw the ball from, and so when it comes to an aggregate kind of use case, the use case for the Phase 5 is quite different for me than the Phase 4.
And what's the release date on this one again?
3 weeks, October 21st.
Yep.
So overall thoughts on it so far that you...
I like it quite a bit. Well, did you get to throw yours yet, or did it show up in time today?
It said it was going to come today. It was supposed to initially come Wednesday, and then it just is stuck on, hey, it's in St. Paul, but it's not coming near you yet.
Yeah,
So-
we were supposed to get some other stuff today too, and it did not.
Yeah.
Did not show up.
Okay, so...
I gotta love UPS or FedEx or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever
it is.
they use.
Mm-hmm.
Because it usually comes around like 4 and 5, but then sometimes it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your pre-thoughts on it then? After the video
Yeah, you've probably seen plenty enough of it. And I think that when you throw so many bowling balls, you kind of know what you're getting already. I mean, there's going to be some that are kind of like, oh, well, this hooks a little bit more, it's a little bit sharper, whatever else. But general ball motion reaction, what do you think?
Right, and then it's different colors. It's a different finish. I think the finish is the main thing.
Yeah, it's React Gloss versus the 1500 polish.
Mm-hmm.
Stu doesn't see a difference. Darren doesn't see a difference. We don't see a difference. It's supposed to be like tackier or squeakier too or something, and it just, I don't know. It doesn't feel any different. But, people were missing the polish, and so anybody that misses the old polish would be, and anyway, polish is polish. It's not like, you use some kind of thing to shine up a ball, whether you use compound or
Yeah.
you use like React to Shine or Powerhouse Factory Finish, it's going to get you to the same kind of general area.
Right. Yeah. But I don't know. I think I like the shape of this a little bit more. The colors are a little bit more attractive. You know, the gold kind of made it look a little chuggy. Is what a lot of people have said. A lot of people in my shop have kind of said that.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the polish actually does make it a little bit sooner. Kind of like starts slowing down a little bit sooner than the Phase 4. If you look at it side by side, you kind of really see where it's starting to actually make its turn from the mids to the back end, or off the spot motion. Whereas Phase 4, most of the time, it would hook up and then stop, or sometimes it would just go straight left.
Yeah.
Phase 5 seems like it's kind of rounds that out more, makes it a little bit more consistent. Is what I've seen.
It's funny you say that though. I've never ever actually thought about that with the gold making it look chuggier down lane. I never even thought about that.
Well, it does because it's got that one gold
Yeah.
stripe in it that just kind of, you see it once every rotation. And so that, mine, whether it's actually revving up or not, you see that gold stripe just kind of keep doing the same thing. And it's like, it's not revving. And then it just kind of jerks a little bit.
Kind of quantums, the quantum gold one. With the
Yeah,
stripe.
this one gives you more of the optics of revving up, where the Phase 4 just looks like it kind of flops down there and then jerks. This one looks more like it's revving up. And again, I mentioned in the video that, the Phase 4 kind of looks like a Sonic, and they kind of react. For me, they're a little chuggier, they're a little straighter off the end of the pattern. This one looks more like a Trend or an Idle Pearl, and it acts a whole lot more like a Trend or an Idle Pearl. It's a stronger Trend, because remember, the Trend was another 4 point is like 252, 047 or 048, and this is 248. So that 4 points of RG really does make quite a big difference. And then there's a couple more points of differential, which it's hard to tell sometimes between like 045 and until you get once you get up past about 040, 045, then it all kind of runs together for me. But the RG does make quite a bit of difference when we're talking about the ball getting into a roll and revving up.
So especially when you compare it between the same ball, and between the 4 and the 5 and the 3. 3's a hybrid, but when you do pearls with the same weight block, they usually change it a little bit. But I don't think they even changed anything from the 4 to the 5.
No, I think it's just colors. Colors, and then the React-A-Gloss, which I'm not really. But yeah, they're very weird to put side by side. They both kind of start up in the same place from straighter, but as soon as you start getting a little deeper, this one feels longer, but I think it's just the Phase 4 is a little chuggier. So yeah, it's different. And that's also hard to explain too, when you're talking about when something starts rolling versus when it actually starts hooking, because the RST X3 is like that. It doesn't start rolling soon, but it starts hooking soon. And so it's very interesting to kind of describe that and say, well, it's actually, it's not revving up. It wants to hook at 30 feet, or it wants to hook just right off your hand, but it doesn't roll as early as something like an Infinite Physics, but the Infinite Physics doesn't dig in near as early as the X3. And so it sounds like you're kind of doing double speak or trying to talk out both sides of your mouth, but it is actually a thing.
It's more of like, what's more attractive to your eye, the lighter colors or the darker colors? I personally would love every ball to be black. That'd be awesome. But because like between the RX3, the X3, I have less yellow in mine. It's a little bit more blended, or it has a lot more silver in it. So it looks weird, like it wants to hook early and then like stop, but then it just goes.
Yeah.
So my eyes are like, is it supposed to be doing that, or is it just the ball? But then it just sucks into the pocket and just keeps striking.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
black or purple. I like purple too. Purple's okay.
Right. Yeah. It's always the yellow. Like I bowl with Eric Vermillier a lot, and he always talks about how like yellow and some balls are just not the greatest. Like if there is yellow in a bowling ball, he will never purchase it.
Well, and Alex George was talking at the Swiss Trios about whenever there's white in something.
That was another color too. That
like the Crux Prime.
Oh yeah.
If you get one with more white in it, he says it also hooks earlier, which I don't know about. I haven't actually thrown a whole lot of, stuff that's just like white. Like there's some stuff that we have that has some white stripes in it, but it's really only the Crux Prime. Other than that, we don't really mess with white a whole lot.
That was my first 800 ball.
Yeah. I had a few. I had a few house shot scores. We'll get into that later, but I had a few scores with my Prime too. I like that one. Like that one quite a bit. I got one staring at me here. So.
We got one back at the shop that I don't know if I want to drill or not.
Yeah, spec for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On the Gravity Evolve, it was really bad.
That ball was poo-poo.
That ball was pretty bad.
I think they probably needed to put like a yellow or like a really bright color in it in order for it to hook. Because
it was the chuggiest, pukiest thing I've ever seen ever.
It was bad.
It's bad to most people, but there's that one or two people that loved it and would probably buy 14 more of them because it just worked for them.
My wife
really know it's going to work for you.
And it looked like a giant turd going down there.
Yeah, mine was pretty bad too.
Angels Omega.
Okay. Yeah.
And I like the Omega.
Yeah, I actually did like the Omega. It was just really early and slow, and then of course it was a pearl ball, and so you have all these people and I need a new pearl, and I'm like, this isn't. If you're thinking, if you're thinking what I know you're thinking, this is
not the one.
Ignore that. Can we just? I'm going to go onto the website and just kind of try to delete that word out because that's not. This ain't what you want, player. This ain't what you want.
This ain't what you want, player.
You don't
great.
need any of that.
Mm-hmm.
We also have some excitement and kind of got announced last night in the bowling world that we didn't really get to post on here, but all of our jersey apparel companies, including Coolwick, that all three of us are with, are now PBA approved. So I'm excited about that. I'm sure you are, even though you don't bowl much of it. I don't bowl much of it. You bowl some PBA stuff, don't you, Will?
That's the thing that's tough out in Minnesota. I have to drive 8 hours in order to even.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't bowl enough to know the transitions and know all the angles and everything because they're all different.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot tougher for me to go out and go 8 hours and hopefully cash. Yeah, it's not that I can't. That's not what I'm worried about. It's more about making money. And, I just bought a house and I have a kid on the way. I need to start making a little bit more better financial decisions.
Driving 8 hours for a regional is pretty tough too.
Well, it's tough. Especially if you have to stay overnight. You're not going to bowl and then drive home right away.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, we're pretty good distance-wise for the region that we're in. You can usually hit one 6 hours or less, usually. Yeah. Now, they hit them down in Texas a few times. They go to Oklahoma quite a bit, if I remember right.
Yeah.
They go to Fire Lake a lot.
Yeah, Fire Lake, and that's 5 hours from us, and then Riley and Bo go down. It's 4 hours for them, 3 hours for Austin.
Yeah, they were just in Oklahoma City this last weekend.
Yeah.
So, for a while they were having some in Kansas, like
Liberal,
and then
that's 5.5 hours.
Yeah, Junction City though was hosting some.
Here.
Is that the South region?
Southwest.
We're in the Southwest region somehow. We're smack dab in the middle of the country. You'd think we'd be in the Central region, but the Central. Like we're literally hour and a half from where we're at, Topeka. We're about an hour and a half from the center of the lower 48.
Yeah,
dead center of the country, but we're not in the Central region somehow.
But what's funny is Missouri's in the Midwest region. So
I don't see him like Missouri, Kansas, or like Ohio or some of those states not even part of the Midwest yet. They're still in our region.
Yeah, it's Missouri. Yeah, Missouri's in the Midwest, and they're in Iowa a lot. That's I know. I always hit like Iowa. We were always in Iowa, Illinois, hardly ever Nebraska because I don't know if they're in that region. But
they're in Midwest.
We'd hit very few spots in Missouri, but we're mostly in Iowa and Illinois. It seemed like we were always in Iowa and Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like, and that's
did have some in Minnesota a while ago, but
we did hit Wisconsin. Wisconsin was in our region.
There's two. I think there's two, like one back to back, kind of like Minnesota did.
Yeah,
but I haven't done that for 3 years.
What region is that one?
Midwest.
That is the Midwest.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't know.
Think of like Russ Oviatt. He's driving from South Dakota, and he's going to like every regional.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's hard because Midwest and Central actually, I think, merged in a lot of events this year too.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
we're going to Ohio and Indiana. That's 12
we used to
hours.
do a lot of merged events with the Southwest. So like if Belton Aaron's hosted one every year, and when we did, it was always a combo. It was always a Southwest Midwest combo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which are always, it's better because you get more entries that way, but still, some of those guys, I can only imagine the drive they had to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. We're drinking Double Low 5 from Radius Brewing in Emporia, Kansas, thanks to Johnny Clark, Johnny's Flooring, Emporia, Kansas. This is, again, Double Low 5. Low 5 is their IPA, so it's double IPA.
Yep.
It's not my beer. But it's pretty... That works. Just have to keep a ball here all the time.
So I was laughing when he sat it there and just stayed there.
Of course, they may not want me advertising beer with their bowling ball, but
just don't angrily bang the table.
Just tell them, tell them it's a good combo. You can get your nice beer here, and then you can get a bowl.
Yeah. Beer and bowling goes together well.
House shots. Bang.
Yeah. So we probably stretched this out long enough. So phase 5. If you're looking for an idle pearl replacement, it's the closest thing you're going to get. If you're looking for a trend replacement, it's a little stronger, but same general shape. I like the trend, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
It just was a small step above a high road pearl. I'm going to complain about the left side until the day I die, but it's just nothing ever reads at all, ever. So that's why lefties always throw 500 grit urethane on virtually everything, because nothing else sees the lane. So
I think you can say that because you're a forced lefty. It's not by choice.
Yeah.
To be fair.
So if you're in Will's area, head to see him at, what's the name of your pro shop again?
The Bowlers Lounge Pro Shop right off of 94 in St. Paul.
Yeah.
There you go. Go see him and pre-order one, or you can use Luke's code of Bowlers Mark.
Yeah, I do. Both of us really like this one. I was a big fan of the Idle Pearl. I actually drilled a new Idle Pearl for the Idle Cosmos comparison, and they're pretty similar. So if you're looking for an Idle Pearl replacement or a trend replacement, it'll work for either one of them. It's not a Spectre replacement. The Spectre was a little bit longer. There's more traction. You can really see the difference because there's more traction on the Spectre. It blends the lane a lot more front to back. It was still pretty angular, still pretty continuous, which is this pole is also continuous, but it just, where it reads and how it blends, it's just not, you could probably fake it, but I think you'd be close with a Wolverine Dark Moss.
I like that ball a lot.
Yeah, the Dark Moss, the cover is still, S70 is basically R2S. R3S Pearl isn't a whole lot stronger, but you can kind of tell the difference in where the extra traction makes the ball do what it does. But the Dark Moss would be close. It is kind of a weaker version of the Spectre. And so I think that from a shape standpoint, Dark Moss is closer to a Spectre than this is. And even with the Night Road having that much stronger cover stock, it's still, again, got an even weaker core than the Spectre and the Dark Moss. And so it's just, the Night Road isn't quite it either. Hopefully, we've been hearing rumblings. There's a Spectre Sapphire that's shown up on the USBC approved list, but we don't know whether that's going to be overseas or not. We're crossing our fingers because of stuff like the Dark Moss and the Phase 5. So we'll see. Very optimistic, but
and they seem to be replacing the stuff they got.
Yeah, I think that they want to do that.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
so they're great equipment. I mean, they're great balls. Spectre, I missed my Spectre so much. I still have it in the shop.
We still have them. We actually took Angels out to get more footage to compare it to stuff like this and the Night Road, the Dark Moss, just to see what we're looking at. We still kept both of ours because I thought, everybody forgot about it because it came out with the Nova. And then the Phase 4 was announced the week before it came out. And so everybody really bailed on it. But as soon as everybody started throwing it, was like, holy crap, this is,
pretty good.
Yeah, this is actually a thing. And so I think in the short time it was around, it got a pretty big following in a short amount of time. So I think it would be a good idea for them to put another one out.
Yeah.
Why not?
But anyway, we can get into the topic that everybody, I'm sure, is here for.
Which you were recently featured in one of Jeff Riggle's articles, correct?
Yeah. So
So.
To start at the top and break it down, Big Mike from the Sweep the Rack podcast wrote an article about house shots, and it kind of polarized everybody. He just doesn't like it. He doesn't understand why stuff has to be easy to be fun. You can if you want to catch up with all these and get past we're going to paraphrase a lot. So if you want to see exactly what they wrote and make sure that you're getting, exactly what you're taking from it rather than what we're telling you that it said, for any of this stuff, 11thframe.com, and these are all free articles, by the way, too. Jeff has a paid service for it, so it's $2 a month or $20 a year, which is nothing for the insane amount of stuff that he puts out. Yeah, well worth it. I mean, I just give him $20 and forget about it, because he puts out like 2 or 3 articles a day most of the time, and he stays on top of some of this bigger stuff. Yeah. And those couple articles that I wrote, the first one I got through pretty easy because I was being pretty safe and pretty PC with it. It still took like 5 or 6 hours to write and make sure that it flowed and make sure that it got across the points I wanted to get across. And I had to go back. You've got to read everything that you write with a fine tooth, because if you just say something, I was just talking, a word fell out of my mouth, whatever else. If you write something down, that's a little bit different, because people think, okay, well, you wrote this down, so you must have thought about it, you must have reread it, and whatever else. So once you write something, it's a little bit past just, oh yeah, I misspoke or whatever. Yeah. So that one took a while, and then the other one, I pumped the other one out actually quite a bit faster because I said exactly what I meant. So that one took about 3 or 4 hours. But and my thing is, I like playing devil's advocate with stuff. And so I try not to have opinions. I want to have conclusions. And I would rather be correct than right. So I want to make sure, okay, well, if I think this, or if this is my conclusion on something, or if this is my opinion, I want to challenge it to make sure that it holds water. It's like, okay, well, if I say this, what is somebody else going to say to challenge it? Or how can I challenge it to make sure that it's actually a good and valid, opinion or conclusion or whatever else? And so that kind of gives the illusion sometimes that, again, I'm double speaking or talking out both sides of my mouth, trying to keep everybody happy, or I can't say certain things because of our contracts and whatever else. And it's like, no, I think that everybody that wrote something had a point. Some people may have stated it a little bit more firmly than some people, kind of like. But what Big Mike basically wrote in the first place was like, you know what, I don't like the house shot thing. It makes things way too easy. People shoot 300s, 800s all the time that have no business doing it. There's people averaging 230 that have no business averaging 230. This isn't the spirit of the game. It's not the way it's meant to be played. And he just doesn't like the amount of legitimacy that's given to it, because the USBC sanctions all this stuff, and they hand out rings, or they at least put your name on the website now, even though they don't hand out rings anymore. They certify it, they sanction it, whatever else. And while I do generally agree, there's also a whole nother side of it for me. And so I wrote something saying, it's like, well, I get it, but at the same time, most people are just out there having fun. Yeah. They're just, so, I mean, when it comes to a competitive side of things, cool, but this is a recreational side of things. And yeah, if people are shooting 300s, 800s, it is a little different on the East Coast, because I don't think that we have near as wide open conditions. Like, I've seen some of the videos from the East Coast, so I kind of know what he's talking about. You've seen like Mike Gourmet puts up fabulous stuff, but people just kind of fall up there and flop it one way and flop it the other way, and somehow everything's like a pocket magnet. And so at some certain point, it's a little bit beyond beyond reason, but at the same time, it's kind of recreation. So before I keep talking, because this is a topic we can just go on and on about. So Will, you read the articles too, didn't you? Yep. So yeah, kind of, I'll pass it around. That before I move on, we can talk about the whole house shot thing to begin with. The whole topic that he brought up in the first place: are house shots too easy? Should they be more regulated? Is it a problem in your area where people, shoot 300 and think they're big shots, and you're kind of like, well, So
Well, I guess I could start. It's hard with any form of the game or any just sport in general. Is that, I know I talked with this with someone today, even that I think it's the bowlers that are becoming more and more adaptive, especially to the conditions and equipment. So to say that house shots are easier, I don't really think that it really is, because anybody could shoot 300. I think what Big Mike was is odd. Like, target audience was such a small percentage of the population of the USBC members, is that not everyone's going to shoot 300, 800. I mean, you really look at the percentages of someone going to shoot one, it's pretty low.
Yeah.
To the people that have bowled the same house for 15 years and maybe have had 1, 2, 3 balls by, in that time period, they're probably going to shoot one every once in a while because they just know the shot. And if they get a good pair, or they kind of know the tricks of the house, especially, centers here aren't really that big. There's not really many more houses that are more than 24 lanes. So a lot of 12 lane or 8 laners, and they'll find a way to shoot the 300s and 800s. And I mean, the main thing is, why is that a bad thing? I think that's a bigger question, is what he kind of missed, is kind of the takeaway that I get. I mean, the first couple sentences, I didn't really get a sense of where he was coming from, and I didn't really know his background. So I asked Luke, I'm like, what has he done in the past? And really, we couldn't really think of anything. So looking at the couple sentences, and it just seems like he was complaining more than actually giving points, and this is why this is a bad thing. It should be regulated. And I just didn't see a real point on what he was talking about.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with you on that. I was kind of in the same boat where I didn't really understand where he was coming from with it. I'm also in the minority that every house shot is impossibly hard to me. I can't hit anything right now if I tried, but that's beside the point. I do completely understand why we have house shots.
You can prove that.
Okay. I can't approve it.
Huh?
Prove it.
Yeah. I generally, unless it's some like,
Yeah, I see it. Anyway, yeah.
I
see both sides of the fence. I see why people think it should be regulated. I also see why we don't, and I'm in the same boat as you. Is I don't understand why it's a big deal. I really don't. It's I don't know.
I mean, he gave a stat that was like in like the late 90s, or like the late 1900s, and it said that there was like 9,300 bowlers bowled 300 that year, or whatever year it was.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember what was the next year that he's posted. It was like 200 and whatever thousand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, this is just outrageous. Well, his equipment has changed in 30 years. You're throwing rubber balls and plastic and urethane, and then you have reactive resin.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost want to say that. I mean, I do want to say that having reactive resin in different lane conditions and weather conditions make it a lot harder to shoot the higher scores on a consistent basis. I mean, when you really think about a 300, it's 12 shots that can go anyway. But when you're shooting 800s, there's a lot that can change. I mean, our house shot right now at our house, I can do whatever I want the first 2 games. And then third game, I'm going from, this to about that.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the house, really depends on, what other people are doing on the lane.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, most people don't even care about harder conditions. They'd rather go, and Luke pointed this out, of why does someone that just kind of wants to relax, they just got off work and they just want to have a couple beers and pizza with the boys and just throw a couple shots, and if they shoot bigger scores, they don't care. It doesn't change their day. They shoot 300, or if they shoot 150, it don't matter to them. I think that's how it should be. But we do, once you have higher expectations of yourself and, of your average, those 230 average bowlers want to shoot 720s every single time, and they shoot 620, they're kind of upset. was rightfully so. But I mean, it's not the end all be all. It seems like kind of what Big Mike was pointing towards, what I got out of it.
Most house shots are clipped anyways, so they're already, most of them are going to be hard as it is. But I mean, especially what we're bowling on right now. But that's one thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. So, Luke, I know you want to jump back in, so go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where you can just talk in circles and talk in circles, and so that's what I did in my first article, with kind of like, okay, well, I can see his point, but then why does it matter? But then if it doesn't matter, then why can't it be a little bit more challenging? But why does it have to be challenging to be fun? But then how are we going to actually accomplish this? And so you just keep chasing. So one of the things is that, like you mentioned, with all the technology, and some people don't think that reactive balls should be a thing, which I'm indifferent towards. If we went back to urethane and plastic balls on whatever kind of a shot, I don't really care, because the fun for me is not in the shooting of the scores. It is, I mean, nobody's ever shot 300 or 800 and been bummed about it.
Yeah.
But it is kind of cool when you're bowling on something tougher. If you average, say on a tougher pattern, you average 200. If you go to league and you shoot your average on something tougher, you're not really that disappointed. It's like, okay, well, that was cool. I shot, it's a tough pattern. I averaged 200. I shot 600. I got out unscathed. If you shoot better, you're usually pretty happy. But if you average, 225 in league or something like that, you're always looking. It's like on a house shot in league, it's always like going to a tournament. Sure, you go in with a 220, 230 average, but you're always looking to shoot 750.
Yeah, of course.
And so it's one of those things. If you go to league on an easier shot and you shoot your average, it's kind of like, whatever. That's kind of a waste of a week. Might as well not have even shown up. If you don't get your average, then my God, it's rough. And if you shoot 750, there's all kinds of, you can find however many frames it takes that would have gotten you to 800. Yeah. So from that point of view, I understand, but I think that the game was bound to get easier anyway once, we worked on topography, because there was Pete Weber famously had something he went to Kegel where they can adjust the topography with the little pistons and whatever else underneath the lane. And so all they did was they had him throw a shot and they put Specto on it, and then they changed the topography just slightly. He threw the exact same shot and it just took the 3 off the right because the topography was a little different. And so he's like, well, I got a bunch of lane men to apologize to now. So with better regulations on topography, which I don't really think is actually a thing, because they've had the city associations doing it. And I think it's just as bad as having some representative like Hugh Miller's article that he came out with saying, they might not approve a score back in the 70s if the guy approving the scores didn't like the proprietor or didn't like the bowler or something else. So
sounds like bowling in a nutshell.
There's a lot of plays. There's a lot of centers that, number one, it costs. They're supposed to pay a certain amount per lane bed to have them inspected. And there's a lot of times that the city associations would just check off the box on bowl.com and move on. They wouldn't go out and do it. The equipment's kind of expensive. It's a little expensive to maintain. It's kind of difficult to do it because you can't be standing on the lane while you're doing it. So you got to straddle it. And we've got bigger centers here. We got a 32 lane center, a 40 lane center.
Yep.
And so when you do that at 3 different spots, and then it went to 5 different spots on the lane there for a little while. And so it's not easy to do. It's not a whole ton of fun. And so, the English is, it's fine. Just click the box on bowl.com and move on, because they're not going to do anything about it. And that's the thing is, you give the stuff to them. It's like, okay, well, it's going to take $5,000. We're going to have to spend $5,000 to get these lanes leveled or fixed or whatever else. It's like, well, we don't have $5,000, so we're not doing that. So you might as well just, just check the box. Were you not going to allow us to have leagues here this year or something? So it's,
plus you got to check the flat gutters and everything else. That's on top of everything. On
So
running tapes and everything else you're doing in the center.
Oh, the tapes.
Yep.
Yeah. So but with new install, we're getting synthetic lanes, new installs for a lot of places. Lane machines are a whole lot better now. There's different types of oil. There's different type. Technology has improved to the point where it was naturally going to get more consistent. Whether you keep the conditions tough, no reactive equipment, whatever else, more consistency means better scores, especially when you're in a tournament setting or something like that. And we've swung back, or from the equipment side of things, we've swung back around to all of a sudden urethane is a crutch for pros on tougher conditions.
Yeah.
It needs to be banned because, like the Masters last year, when they supposedly designed the pattern so that people to force people out of urethane, and then that's all they use for everything. And then they're just on, they're just on TV shooting 230s and 240s with their purple hammers and pitch blacks, and people at home are bored. It's like, I didn't show up to watch a urethane fest and whatever else. And so it's like, okay, so maybe you don't like two-handers, maybe you don't like the equipment, maybe you don't like lofting 30 feet of lane, but how is piping it up 7 with a urethane ball? How is that real bowling? Like that's my thing with it is, yeah, we can go back to all this stuff and we can just do nothing but show up to league and throw urethane balls up 8 all night and move on and feel like that's real bowling. But that's we're all going to pass the ball back over to you, I guess.
Emerald Sin actually just said the same thing. It was elderly. It was the elderly bowlers complaining that they couldn't get it to hook. That's another thing too.
Well, that's how do you okay? So we've all complained about it. Maybe we move on to solutions. Like, how do you fix it? Because what's easy for one bowler is not easy for another. So we go back to urethane and plastic balls. Higher speeds can't get it to hook. Lower rev rates can't get it to hook. So then you give a massive advantage to the two-handers and the higher rev rates. And okay, so another example I gave is, okay, well, if the two-handers are not okay, but Robert Smith and EJ Tackett are okay. James is okay because they're one-handed.
Dylan.
So yeah, Dylan. So you're talking about guys that can create a bunch of rev rate, the almost two-handed rev rate and speed, one-handed with their thumb in the ball. They have a massive advantage now.
Yeah.
How do we make this fair?
I don't really think that there is a way to make it fair. I mean, the game evolution of any sport is just the way of the player, and then the company is trying to match what different players are doing nowadays. I mean, like if you even look at ball technology, because we had a seminar today, and Storm, they did these back in 2016, so they wanted to bring them back. They're called roundtables, and Hank Boomershine was there to talk with us, and one of my questions was, are we just making balls stronger and stronger? Like, is that kind of the, when I do ball reviews, or when we do any ball review, is it going to be always stronger through the fronts and clean there and then quick down lane? It's like, no, you'd kind of want to take what Kegel is doing, and because they're making oil thicker and thicker, that's just the way that they're doing it in response to bowling balls in the past. So they're trying to keep up, and then any ball company is trying to keep up. So they're just making it a titch stronger as we go. It's not like you can't really do a leap, because then you'll throw the whole system off. The whole standard deviation will just go off, and it won't. It'll be harder to catch up from there, because then you have to put a lot of steps. I mean, you think of like the difference between like a pitch black and a UC3. I mean, there's nothing anywhere close to there. That's the hard part.
They're both urethane balls, but
all right,
no, they're not in the same universe.
Well, like the pitch purple, I remember before the pitch purple was released, it was overseas.
Yeah,
and everyone was like 20 out to like 5 with it over out in Thailand, and it was just wheeling back, and I'm like, there's no way that's urethane.
Yeah.
So,
and then I got it, and it's definitely urethane.
Well, especially when you drill into it, it smells different than any other urethane.
Yeah, because there's a very specific way that urethane drills too, and so you can tell when it's straight up urethane and when it's a blend. urethane, for me, to actual urethane tends to ribbon out. It doesn't you don't get the finer shavings.
Yeah.
It just all binds up and then it wraps around the drill bit.
Like a clump.
Okay. Yeah. It just doesn't ever separate or fall apart or whatever else. Reactive balls, it just kind of, you get these real neat little shavings and whatever else. Urethane doesn't drill like that.
I think it's because it's the way the absorption in the cover stock.
Mm-hmm.
So like urethane, it burns it up to the fronts and then just takes it all the way to the back. That's why everyone hates it. But reactive absorbs it, and that's why you see those individual ribbons.
Mm-hmm.
Most pinned down balls you can see they do have those tight flare lines, but it's not like thick like urethane because it's not. It's a much slower absorption rate.
Yeah, urethane's it's a slower absorption rate. Plus, it rolls over the same. Generally, urethane balls don't really flare, and so it keeps rolling over the same oil ring. So it's going to pick up more and more and more and more and more. Mm-hmm. Which, if the ball's just rolling over it one time really quickly, and fun fact, bowling balls don't actually touch the lane.
No, they're all.
They ride on a. I read some college student did this for a physics class or something. They ride on a bed of negatively charged ions down the lane, which of course they come back with oil on them. So I'm thinking, they're still doing.
They're still touching something.
They're touching something.
It's probably just the oil then.
Yeah. There was hydroplaning on the oil, so it's they're never actually really touching the lane, but.
Yeah, is there really a solution to this whole house shot thing? Not everyone's going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
If you do one thing, someone's going to be upset. If you do another thing, someone's going to be happy. Someone's going to be upset again.
You're 100% right, and that's why I don't think that there's any kind of real solution in front of us right now that could fix it, is because you're never going to make somebody happy.
Well, and again, to harp on the left side of the lane thing, they can't even get the left and right sides of the lane to play fair on the same lane with the same pattern. It just doesn't even happen with that to begin with, let alone trying to make it fair for play styles. And so I think that it's like, okay, well, whether you can make it fair or not, just make it harder. We don't need people showing up and shooting all these honor scores and getting big heads. And my thing to swing back to again is like, why do we care? I understand the idea. You want to make people earn stuff. You want to make it challenging for the sport side of things, but for the recreational side of things, when people are just going out there and throwing stuff all over the place, there are easier golf courses. There are, when you go to do anything, there's always easier versions of basically whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
If you play disc golf, there's easier disc golf courses. There's easier golf courses. There's easier whatever else, so that you can kind of get yourself, so that you can kind of develop the skills. But the flip side of that is that house shots don't really prepare you to bowl on tougher shots. They actually make it worse.
Yes, they do.
Because if you get used to having hold in the middle and just flinging it at the ditch, when you go to bowl on something tougher, that's why generally when we go to nationals, we just bowl on. We don't have to bowl on the nationals pattern. We just want to bowl on something tough to kind of reprogram ourselves.
Yep.
And so the argument there is, it's like, well, it doesn't really prepare you. And so when people go out on something tougher, it's not like it's just, oh, I have less miss room. It's you've built your game around chucking the ball to friction on the outside, and all of a sudden you can't do that. So it makes it extra frustrating. And so it's like, okay, screw that. I'm not going to do that anymore. And then you have a bunch of different bowling balls, and it's really expensive and whatever else. And so I think part of the reason is, again, to play devil's advocate, because I do agree, with certain things on both sides, where I'm like, if we went back to tougher patterns and urethane plastic, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I also don't have a problem with the complication that the equipment provides. The equipment doesn't make bowling simpler by a long shot, because that's a big part of what I spend my videos on, and is number one, talking about the differences in the equipment, trying to get people to understand the differences, how to use them, how to apply them. And so there's a bigger barrier to entry, I think, with the equipment than if you took the equipment away, because then all you have is plastic urethane stuff that doesn't hook, and everybody's playing the same place on the lane. Like I said on one of the other, I think on the second article, it's like, well, you can't with plastic and urethane, you can't play the lanes wrong unless you're actually blatantly intending to.
Yeah.
Because you play where you can actually hit the head pin from, and that's either, if you're not throwing it straight down the middle, you're pointing it from the side. So it's like, how difficult are we really making this? What is real bowling? Is it walking it down the ditch with urethane? Is it lofting at 30 feet? Is it all the equipment? What's easier for one person is harder for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
They can't get the two sides of the lane to play fair to begin with, let alone I think that everybody's definition of fair is what they were good at in their prime. And that seems to be the prevailing thing, because 30 years ago, urethane was old crappy technology and we were moving into the future.
Yeah.
And now it's like urethane is too easy. It's a crutch. We need to get rid of that and make people throw reactive balls, because those are harder. It's harder to score with reactive balls. And
I tell you what, I know what's fair is when the left side's harder than the right. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. What do you think, Will?
I don't like throwing urethane.
Can't say anything.
Yeah.
One of my best friends is a lefty, McNeil. So
I don't care. You can say it. It's all right.
I hate it.
I tell McNeil every time that we bowl league, even though we moved to Florida recently, we bowled on Monday nights for the last 3 years. I always say, yeah, you're on the left side. No one's even touching. So it just makes it easier for you. He can throw a plastic ball and still shoot 300, 800 that night.
Yeah, I mean, McNeil, I told him the other day, which I've had 2 unfortunate interviews with him. We've had him on the Bowler Show a couple times. I keep asking him idiotic questions. But one of the things is kind of like, you're making it rough to sell the idea that it's actually harder on this side, because all you do is just shoot numbers on everything.
That's fair.
That's all he does, is just shoot numbers on absolutely everything. And so you're not helping us with the idea that it's actually tougher over there. But it's one of those things where it's all or nothing. I don't know how many tournaments I've been to where it's like, okay, well, this is fairly balanced. Normally, it's either the lefties run it over or they're completely blocked out.
Yeah.
So there's not really any, okay, we'll wait for the lanes to open up, or, I'm better in transition. This righty's better on the fresh. This righty's better if they can play here. This righty's better if they can play there. So
got 2 points. So different surfaces will do different things. HPLs, Guardians, SPLs, they all do different things. So obviously one is going to be higher scoring. Usually the Guardians or the Brunswick lanes will usually be higher scoring, is what I've seen.
Yeah.
Because we have, in the Metro, we probably have 15 centers that all have relatively different, they all relatively different lane surfaces, have been there for different periods of time. Most of them have been there for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. I mean, recently, I think 2 or 3 centers have gotten newer, like SPLs or HPLs, but those are the ones that hook a bunch. But
HPLs hook off the planet. SPLs are what they have at HQ, which is why everything goes 45 feet and turns sideways. So
correct. So I mean, I think that they should do almost what Brunswick did, or what EBI did in Kentucky, is had different lane surfaces and try them out there as HPLs and HPLs. And
that's right. They do have like 4 different surfaces in there, don't they?
Well, and see, I would be very interested to know, because they can't just test the stuff on they've got the show lanes at HQ. I haven't been there, but I would have to imagine that they have somewhere else that has different lane surfaces that they can test this stuff on, because it's kind of interesting that stuff that looks good in those videos at HQ is kind of out in the real world. But if it looks awful at HQ, it's like, give me a case of them. Like the UC2, if you go back and watch the 6 ways or 5 ways video for that, looks terrible, awful. It just kind of wiggles and does this nonsense or whatever else. The gem does not hook for anybody. I mean, it just looks like absolute garbage at HQ, but I've seen a lot of gems out in the wild and they look great. UC2 has been around for a while and they look amazing. So generally speaking, if it looks like trash at HQ, buy one.
So what if, knowing different lane surfaces, different frictions and everything, what if USBC came out with patterns that are like, this is what you should use for HPLs, this is what you should use for SPLs, this is what you should use for Guardian? Would that make it more fair?
That would at least be closer. That would be at least be more consistent because they tried the red, white, and blue patterns, but those are going to play different on the different surfaces again.
Mm-hmm.
And even given the ages, because the ages, you're going to get more friction the older a surface is, but HPLs are going to start off hooking a bunch. They're going to end up hooking more 20 years later, but they're going to start off hooking a bunch. So generally they kind of retain their overall properties. They just get, more and more frictiony, I guess. So that would probably be something that would help in the first place. I think that most house shots are generally higher friction, lower volume.
Yeah.
So that at least you can, and that's it, again, what I wrote in my second article was that the equipment is kind of an equalizer, because if you put out, if you all you have is urethane and plastic, you're not going to be able to put out a pattern that's going to give you hook for the low rev rates and force the higher rev rates into lowering their rev rate or not playing fourth arrow or whatever else. Mm-hmm. You can have, on the same pattern, one, like on Thursday nights, we have some people that start off with infinite physics, gem, whatever else, and we have other people that throw IQ tours. And so the equipment is kind of an equalizer so that you can put out a fair pattern, and then people use the equipment to attack the pattern the way that they need to, yeah, which kind of makes it fair. Otherwise, if you're banning a lot of this equipment, then it's all of a sudden not fair. So the lower averages, the lower rev rates have to just suffer with low carry, and then the higher rev rates and higher speeds just blow everything back all the time, because obviously higher rev rates and higher speeds with urethane, when they can just trap it from 10.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even care how easy the pattern gets, because that's the complaint on tour, is that when the lefties are given urethane off the ditch, you're not going to beat them.
No.
You're just not. I mean, Jacob Utruff or Svensson with a purple hammer pitch black, if they've got to look from straight and they've got two boards to work with, they're going to mow the field over. And it's not going to be close.
I honestly think the best way to combat it, though, is kind of like what Will said, is they just set standards for each surface. But this is the pattern you should be using for this surface, yeah, et cetera, et cetera. But once again, topography is going to come back into play, and it's still not going to be the same.
Yeah, so, but USBC they have this program that they're still trying to implement, where they're going to have their own people certify the centers. So again, you make that, there shouldn't be any politics involved. You make it fair.
Yep.
But they're only getting checked every 3 years. And the option is, okay, you can fix these,
yeah,
if your topography sucks, or you can only have recreational leagues here. We're only going to sanction you at they're going to sanction the house at different levels. And so I think that would be one step towards being more fair and, satisfying people like Big Mike that are saying, look, we've got this, we've got all this stuff, and people are shooting honor scores left and right. They should have no business doing it. So maybe it should be maybe it shouldn't be so easy. But if you're saying, okay, well, your topography sucks, and if you're going to do this, we're only going to sanction you at a recreational level, and you're only going to get credit for this, recreational thing. I think that because scores are sanctioned and people put them up on social media all the time, that he feels like that gives a little bit too much legitimacy to it. It kind of waters it down. It makes the accomplishment a little bit less important, which I agree with generally. But I haven't filled out paperwork in years at league, because it's like, it's fun to do, but ultimately I don't really care about it. I know that in the grand scheme of things, it's a fun little accomplishment, but it doesn't actually mean anything beyond, hey, I had a really good night at league, and I'm going to tie for high game scratch, yeah, and whatever else. I'm going to split it with like 30 other people and get back 1150 at the end of the year for it, and whatever else. It was a fun night, and I can put my little post up on social media, and I can talk about the ball that got me there, just like the other 50 people I saw that I scrolled across in my feed that did it. But you know, I'm not going to shoot 300, 800 and think I'm ready for the tour, you know?
There's always you shoot that and then, oh, you should go on tour. You're a pro.
Yeah. And I think that that's what burns him. And that used to burn me at the same time as people would talk about it. And now it's the opposite way. It's kind of like, you know, cool. It's fun. Congratulations, whatever else. Well, I'm going to go out on tour now. I'm like, you go have fun with that. Let me know how that goes.
Let me know that in
I'm
result.
really,
Your local scratch
I'm really going to be interested to hear how that goes. And I think that that's what he could probably have a lot more fun with it if he looked at it that way, which is I used to go around upset all the time, but it was part of my thing. Like, okay, well, if I can't, it's an easy house shot that people that have no business shooting 300s on or shooting 300s on. I can't shoot 300 on this super easy shot that these hacks are shooting 300s on. So that's what I'm really mad about. But the other thing is I also don't really believe, I don't think that what he's done or not done personally has, you know, if you have some logic, because I haven't done anything either besides I'm basically a Kardashian.
Oh my God.
Without the billions of dollars and without the following. Because all I've done is put videos on YouTube. That's all I've done. I haven't actually.
And the dark hair.
Yeah. There's so many jokes.
I've let a few go right there that I'm just going to let slide.
Yeah,
I'm just the local guy. I can win a lot of things in Minnesota, but nothing really else outside of that.
Well, and see, that's the thing is, so I don't what he has done or what he hasn't done. It bears no relevance to the conversation for me because I feel like I can still speak on it because most of the people that have done some of the biggest things in the sport are not the players or the participants.
Yeah.
And some of the best that the game has ever seen from like a title perspective and winning success, whatever else, you don't want them coaching you. You don't want them drilling you a bowling ball. You really don't want them having any kind of input on anything about anything. It's like you take the ball, you go throw it at the sticks, you knock them down, you be really good at that. You know, you thank everybody, and that's where you're done because everybody has their own little part. And I think that, you know, when you look at like a movie, the actors are the smallest part of that because there's a whole frickin' crew and editors and people behind the camera and the costumers and whatever else. The players, you know, in a sport, you know, you look at a football game, there's so many more administrators and facility people and whatever else that make this machine tick. And, you know, the players are the ones that they're the kind of magnet.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got to have the frickin' refrigerator to put the magnet on, you know?
Fair.
So, I mean, while I haven't done anything in the sport beyond make videos.
Sorry.
We're getting comments on the.
Could you imagine Luke doing the Kim Kardashian photo shoot?
That's the one that I laughed at.
Yeah. So, I mean,
somebody said better booty though.
God, so yeah, I'm a Kardashian without the money, without the fame, without the good looks, and doing it in bowling. So I'm really not a Kardashian.
Do you have an ass?
I aspire to be a Kardashian. I know where I can find one.
Oh gosh!
But
off the rails.
Yeah. So on to the following. I posted another article because people kind of pissed me off a little bit. Because, you know, Big Mike kind of threw it back and he's like, you know, who's this guy? What is he talking about? I think he called me a prick and whatever else. I didn't call him a prick, but
he called you one or you called him one?
No, because I said that sometimes, you know, people that are really passionate about the integrity of the game or whatever, you know, that's what kind of started changing my opinions because I was always bitter and pissed off all the time. And I talked to other people that were bitter and pissed off. And I'm like, this game just sucks all the life. I hate it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to see people doing it. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm like, you know, they're drinking their beer and they're screwing around and whatever else. They're having a lot more fun than I am.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, what does it actually matter? You know, the next time, because it used to be, God, if that guy shoots 300, I'm quitting. You remember having the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've all said that. So we can't say anything. It's like, oh my God, if that guy shoots 300, I'm done. I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm over it.
I have probably been such a prick once it said that out loud to somebody, like, and just like, can I imagine how that guy feels though after I said that?
And so that's because it's a really big deal for them. Because if they shoot, even whether they should have any business shooting a 300 or not. It's the greatest moment in their life. It's a bunch of fun, and I'm always happy when I shoot 300.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm like, okay. And so I mentioned that it's like, some people run the risk of being like really condescending, arrogant pricks about their opinion from up on their soapbox or their pedestal.
Yeah.
And of course, he's got a show to run too. I talked to him about it on Twitter, and he says like, "Oh man, it's all good. I got a show to run, so I'm going to work an angle and whatever else. It's all cool." And because I think that I get his side of it, and he kind of gets my side of it too. We don't necessarily agree on. Well, we don't, because he's still thinking, you know what? Screw it. House shots. It's too easy. I just want to bowl them. I want it to be challenging. I want the game this way. And I would say, yes, I also want the game this way, but I don't mind it being this way either.
Yeah.
Because when push comes to shove, when we get up into the higher levels of stuff, that's where it should be more challenging. But recreationally speaking, I don't really care anymore.
Yeah, it's
so.
Well, I mean, when you see the 230 average bowlers bowl like local scratch series, like the local scratch tour, are they going to average 230 every single tournament? Not even close. I mean, I'm up there, and I average. I won last season. I won high average at 208 point whatever.
Yeah.
Out of all the guys, so I mean, if that cross 11 tournaments, 208 is great. It's more of the likeliness of the tournament, not the house shots. I mean, it's two different things, but it's more of the player and how they take it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's.
And I think part of the problem too is that you're bowling against yourself, really. I mean, if you're in like a softball league, you definitely want to, because you don't ever want to get in like a mixed summer softball league and have somebody obliterate you. It's like, what are you doing in this league? You should be in this other league. But handicap stuff and whatever else, when you're bowling against yourself, like I gave the example of our Thursday night scratch league, if we changed the pattern and made it more challenging, everybody would just average less, but the pecking order would still be the same. Russ and Trevor and James and Jay Futrell, Nick Vaughn, those guys would still run over us.
Not right now, they're not.
Oh yeah, it might actually be easier, and that's the other thing again is that the condition. Trevor averaged 240 something last year. He's like it.
He's averaging.
He's like it. Yeah, he's under 210 because the left side is just.
Russ isn't doing much right now either.
Brutal. The lane. I mean, the lanes are quite a bit tougher this year than they were last year.
It's the gutters are wet and the middles are hooking. It's exactly what you guys want to see in a house shot.
So I don't think we
absolutely love that.
Yeah, well, we don't have house shots in the true meaning of, again, like, and that's why James moved here from North Carolina, because he bowled a bunch of UBA stuff out there. They don't have a whole lot of sports shots. I think his last title defense or whatever. For the Southeast region or something like that. The guy was throwing, I mean, he'd get it to strike, whether he hit 5 or hit 15, whatever else. It was just a pocket magnet. And James was so much better than this guy. And I can say no disrespect, but it's obviously disrespect, which is, again, going to piss people off. But James is so much better than the guy that ended up beating him, but this guy could just throw it anywhere. And so James just kind of got sick of it. It's like, well, it doesn't matter how much better you are than somebody if they can throw it anywhere and strike. And so James is still one of the better bowlers out here by a long shot, but he's got a whole lot more people around him that are going to push him. They're going to challenge him. And that's what he gets out of the game. And so, yeah, I can see the frustration from certain situations, certain centers, certain whatever else. So I get it to a certain degree, but if you want more challenge, you have to get out of the recreational thing. Because you might have to drive for it. I don't know. It's just tough because, again, with handicap, yeah, that's the one that I just poured. You're saying you're kind of competing against yourself. It's not like, well, okay, so if you have the good softball team that they can either beat up on this league or they can move up to their other league where they have more competition. But if you are already kind of at the same level as somebody else, and you just make the conditions tougher, the averages drop. There's no competitive difference. It's not like the challenge of the pattern or the challenge of the conditions is going to change the competition.
Yeah.
Because again, the conditions get tougher. Russ, Trevor, those guys are still going to be, they're still going to be in it. So it's.
There's always those guys will always be in the mix.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I did like your analogy of the golf courses earlier.
Yeah.
But the one thing you can hit the nail with on the head is you have the choice to go golf at a harder golf course or go golf at an easier golf course.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different in bowling. You know, a center's tougher. You can go bowl at a tougher center.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's
house shots aren't going anywhere. I can just tell you that right now.
We have had centers closed down here in town because we used to have 5 or 6 centers, and 3 or 4 of them closed down because they were harder to score in than the other houses.
That's why house shots never going to go anywhere.
Meadow Lanes,
Just won't.
Southwest, Gage North, they were tougher to bowl at. They weren't as high scoring as the 2 centers that are still left in town. And, we can all be frustrated with it. But at the same time, people are going to choose what they're going to choose. Now, if we want tougher conditions, we go bowl the KC tournaments. We go to Swiss trios and get our brains beat in by half the PBA tour. We
also do that for the KC tournaments.
yeah. Also, I mean, when you walk into a local sweeper, and Packy's there, and Brad and Kyle are there, and Zach Wilkins is there, and then all the local guys are there, and then you have the local regional players like Dylan Burns and Austin Bolds and all those guys. It's like you look down, that's like they're here. Oh, cool! I can finish 11th.
Yeah, I can finish 11th. My favorite was one in Discord. I don't remember who it was, and he showed up, and Trevor was there, and he said, "Great! I thought Trevor would actually miss one of these. I'm glad he made it." But no, for example, we were talking about like Thursday nights and how they're hard on the left side. And granted, they're both house shots. Trevor struggled so much on Thursday nights, and then he went to Lunar and threw 20 in a row to only shoot a miserable 836.
Yeah.
You also just got to look at the different states, because like you see a lot of Missouri guys, they're always throwing like super far right. They're super deep, so super far right, throwing a weak ball and still coming back and almost hitting the 7-pin in the face.
I guess it's like they hook a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, because I bowled down there once. I can't remember what center it was. It's where the not where the Orfs are at, but pretty close.
Is it where they do the Midnight Bowler Society?
No, it was Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury, okay.
I did that a couple years ago. I hooked a bunch. I was not used to it at all.
Oh yeah,
Minnesota they don't hook at all.
St. Louis they fly. Kansas City they hook.
Kansas City they fly because we've got HPLs all over the place, or the surface is 25 years old.
Right.
We got a lot of pro lane around here, but it's all old pro lane.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and we have a lot of freaking twister pins. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, we have. I love twister pins.
I hate
not
them.
at certain centers.
Hate them.
I love twisters.
We have that where the Midwest Youth Classic is up in Alexandria, and they have twister pins up there. They had state there last year, and I never bowled twister pins before, and I had 300 like 680. Didn't have anything else after that, but it was second game, I think.
Oh, you'll go a game carrying everything with them, and then you'll go the next game and they fly
all over the place.
Ball's going through the pins exactly the same way, and you're just 10 pinning, 8 pinning, 9 pinning, 7 pinning.
Man,
my last shot had a 7-10, and then they just went both sides like the same direction. Yeah. I'm like, what just happened?
So the funny thing is the widest part of a twister pin is higher than it is on Brunswick pins, and so the twisters tend to go up, where the Brunswick pins tend to go side to side.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
That makes it kind of interesting. The mechanics will tell me that the twisters shoot at the back of the machine a whole lot more than Brunswick pins do. Also, however, you don't have the pins die like on the Brunswick pins where you have, that pin's broken or whatever, that pin's dead.
Yeah.
You don't have that with twister pins.
You can hear it.
Yeah, but if you play like fallback and you get like a Pro Motion, IQ Tour, Idol Pro, Idol, one of them really round shaping balls, and get like 2 or 3 boards deeper than you're really supposed to be, and kind of get the ball to like almost go past the break point, but just kind of barely get there and get the pins going sideways, score for days.
Oh, that's how I score with them. Is getting right and get on top of them, close my angles, and push them back.
If you try to shape a ball on twister pins, you'll never carry. You're going to get tapped all day long.
I leave
that's what we did
all day long when I had, like, if we bowl like a Kansas City event and they start hooking, and I have to get left and play this, I'll 10-pin all day.
Yeah. So
yeah, we bowl on HPLs on Monday nights. Usually I'm bowling tonight, but they have HPLs and I have to trap my angle with like a hype solid that's pinned down, and it's just that's it. Just boop.
Yeah,
that's it.
You need the blend, but you also need the lower strength, and
they are great for picking up 710s. I will say that. Because they bounce so much. Like I had one at Aaron's, and Aaron's is impossible to pick them up.
Yeah.
You guys should bowl the Ebonite Fall Classic or the Winter Classic if they go to Maple Lanes or they go to Cadillac. I bowled there this year a couple weeks ago, and Maple Lanes I think it's a year old with their new service after it got burnt down, so they had to redo everything.
Oh God, yeah, Maple Lanes,
right.
I remember that.
Some guy broke in and set the front on fire, and they got onto the lanes. I think the first 10 lanes. So they had to redo everything, and it looks beautiful. Oh my goodness! They have a local brewery that's in there.
Sweet.
They have a buck hunter that was unplugged, so we were pissed. But they have a duck pin. But the back of the pin decks were so bouncy. I didn't see a 710 be made. It was close, but I had someone shoot a 4.67 easy. It just 4 pins bounced out and hit 6.
That's cool.
I mean, it was insane how bouncy it was.
Is the Winter Classic at Maple?
Yeah.
It is?
Sometimes they switch it. Like the last couple of years, it's been a Cadillac because that's just the way they do it.
Yeah.
But I think the Fall Classic has always been at Maple, and Winter Classic has always been at Cadillac.
I always wanted to bowl both, but the Fall Classic, we were bowling something else. We were bowling something. What were we bowling?
Yeah, we have so many things that we bowl, and I'd love to make it to stuff like that, or then the holiday doubles would be fun to make it to.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough to even feel like, because it's like, well, you'd show up and see what happens. It's like, well, no, I can stay here. I see what happens here.
Yeah.
I need a few more years before I feel like I want to put even because it's one. Some tournaments we go to for the experience, and if we do well, it's cool. But at the same time, again, like you were saying, you got a house, you got a kid on the way. Stuff happens. You can't afford to spend $800, $900 on a frickin' bowling tournament every other weekend.
Yep.
And that's the other problem with it, is that you would love to have more kind of diverse opportunities around here, just locally, but sport patterns aren't really a thing. It's hard for some people to kind of practice on them so that you can then go out to regionals or tougher tournaments or whatever else. And with the, how expensive equipment is and whatever else, the expense, I think, keeps people in kind of the recreational space.
Yeah.
And so I think that it is kind of a deterrent to getting better, because it's not like you just need to improve your physical, mental bowling skills.
Yeah.
The barrier to entry from a cost perspective is so far.
Oh yeah. That was actually, you said that I was a point that I was going to make, and you just kind of hit it. It was a small point. It was I can see also with how much equipment costs that a recreational bowler is going to want, when they spend that kind of money on equipment, they're going to want to score. They're not going to want to go bowl on hard stuff. They're going to, you know what I mean?
Well, and they have to spend so much to compete on hard stuff.
Exactly.
That it's just, it takes so much time and so much money that it's just like, you know what? It's not worth it. The one analogy I made is people don't want to spend thousands to make hundreds.
Yep. That's where I made the point with the regional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a regional is going to cost you just to go, take a learning.
1,000 to make hundreds.
About $300 just to enter that, and then you got to look at hotel more than likely, et cetera. And you're only getting 7-8 games of qualifying, and you're probably down there just donating. So,
Yeah.
That's
I
an
mean, there
expense.
are those guys that can be the warriors that have. I know the guy, I think he's in his 50s, maybe mid 50s, who has had the same, like his newest ball, I think, is a original cell, maybe.
Oh, the
And
best.
he won a CBA title
Yeah.
last year, and he beat Briley Howe.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Brad.
He was just with us last
Yeah, Swiss
weekend.
Trios. Yeah.
Well, not with us.
He lives in my apartment building. He actually lives door over and then up one floor.
He's got the best jersey. He's got a koala jersey. It's the best thing I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, the koala jerseys go.
Anyway,
but he beat him. But it's like it doesn't matter about equipment; it's what you do with it. But I mean, when you're a beginner bowler that's trying to build an arsenal, you always have those guys that come into the shop. You're like, all right, I need a 6-ball arsenal. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And it's like, I don't really know what your thought process is, because that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
You could be the guy that has bowled on house shots forever and then just kind of want to go out and do scratch tournaments, even if it's at the local standpoint. So you have, if it's storm balls, you have your IQ, your phase 2, you have the benchmark balls, but you don't really know how they think, because how they throw, their physical game. But if everybody's eyes are different. So if you're like, I hated a phase 2 of the first 2 that I drilled. Absolutely hated it. But everyone's like, oh, you have to have it. Have to have it in your bag. And I'm like, I could just throw like 14 IQs.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what you're thinking unless I really talk to you and kind of get piece by piece of what you really think during a tournament. So it's really hard to give you. I can give you suggestions on what balls you like and, steps up or down from there, but it's not going to be perfect. An arsenal is what you build out of it.
Fact.
You can get as much information from me or Luke or Jonathan or whoever, even Hank Boomershine that designs the things. You can go through the matchmaker program from Storm, just like, here's my rev rate and whatever. They'll give you a list of balls of what you should get, but it's all speculation.
Yeah, that's why it's so tough for doing videos sometimes, is I'll get halfway through a video and I'm like, well, I'm trying to explain this, but I have to kind of explain it generally, because when people ask for layouts or surfaces or, okay, well, what surface should I take this ball to? I have no idea. What layout should I put? I have no idea. Even down to what ball should I get sometimes. I can tell them when they say, okay, so I've got an infinite physics, I've got a gem, I've got a high road pearl, and I've got a electrify. I'm like, okay, you could probably put the phase 2 or a zen soul, whatever else in the middle of that, and be pretty okay. But when it comes down to specifics, you have to know so many different things to get them locked into something that's like, well, I can teach you general things, but you're the one that's going to have to understand this stuff and put it together. I can't just tell you all this stuff, but it takes such a long time to get that information. And you have to bowl at different centers. You have to bowl with different equipment. And for those of us, I think the big thing about being on staff is understanding, being able to, okay, well, I'm going to try this layout on this ball. If it doesn't work, who cares? Well, if you do that as a regular bowler, it's like, I can't just say who cares about a $250 investment.
I was getting ready to say that. Yeah.
You got to spend $60 to plug and re-drill it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is you spend $250 on something to begin with. And now it's, even if you buy a freaking hustle anymore, you're 150, 175.
Yep.
Pushing 200 in some markets.
Yeah.
You can't just write it off and say, okay, well, if this one sucks, I'm just going to order another one. You can't really do that. And I'm still fresh enough with, because you work in the bowling industry, you don't make a whole lot of money. Stuff's expensive. You remember that. I haven't forgotten it all. And even though I have bowling balls upon bowling balls sitting in front of me, I still haven't forgotten that for a second.
And so only getting worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's
gone up.
Yeah. So that's why I try to think, okay, well, I can't just say, okay, well, I drilled this ball, and I got a case of these, and I drilled this one this way, and this one this way, and whatever else. I think the biggest benefit for staffers is that we can go through a bunch of bowling balls, try a bunch of surfaces, layouts. We get to know the covers, we get to know the cores, and so we kind of have an idea what we're doing before we even drill it. Where somebody else has to, it's a lot more expensive of a process. It's a lot more drawn out. They don't drill everything like we drill everything.
Literally. And they have to rely on us.
Yeah.
Like solely rely on our, like I asked, how do you want this ball drilled? And it's what's ever best you think.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really don't know. I have a general like, here, I'm gonna put the side weight, all the counterweight on one side because you're a right-hander or a left-hander. Like that's all I'm gonna really give, unless you want a specific motion. Like people will ask for their PAP or ask to get it done. And, you know, even in that, it's still speculation because you can drill it the exact way that they want it, and it will, you know, it could roll really bad for them.
Yeah.
You never really know.
Then you could drill a motive ball, and that really gets to be an expensive mistake.
Yeah.
Because how much are they right now to buy a motive ball? Good God.
Oh, my.
We raised our prices a little bit, too.
I don't think you raised them that much.
Not that much. But at the same time,
motive balls. I saw one the other day just to get one like on Bowlerex or Bowler's Mart or Buddies or wherever. Like $214. Then you got to spend another, if not, they may be more than that now. And then you got to spend another, what, 50, 60 to get an outside drill? Yeah. I mean, that's nuts. Not to bash on them. I get it. It's inflation. You got to hold up. But
it just has to be. I mean, they almost raised their price by $15 a ball on some of them. On the higher ends. Yeah. Like, it's tough. Like, I don't want to charge the $300 ball, but you know, in the market and the margins and everything, I kind of have to.
Hands are tied, man.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
You got to, because at the same time, it's kind of funny that when I was in the pro shop that I was in, the biggest thing that I worked on was trying to raise the margins more than raising the cost, because they're talking about in like the restaurant industry. We'll watch a lot of restaurant stuff, Restaurant Impossible and Gordon Ramsay and stuff like that. And they say if your food cost is over 30%, you're going out of business. Well, a good profit margin in bowling is like 50%. Because the bowling balls are so much more expensive than people realize that they are. And I'm not in it anymore, so I can tell them that depending on the distributor that you go through, like an Infinite Physics right now is probably $150. 155, 160, depending on some distributors, you get different price brackets depending on how much you order. But an Infinite Physics plus or minus 10, $15 is going to cost you about $150. And if you're buying that, say you sell it for $230, even if it's all inclusive with the drilling and stuff, you have to sell so much, and you're going to spend 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 2 hours, depending on the customer. Very rarely does somebody just come in and say, hey, I want that ball drilled up for me. 15 minutes, they're out the door. You're spending a lot of time with them. And even though they spend $250 there, you might only be making like 60 or 70 bucks on a ball sale. Even though they're spending 250 or 300, you're not making anywhere near a lot of that's cost. And so it is so hard to make money in the bowling industry to begin with. Sunstorm, yeah.
They have it up there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it.
No, you don't have to. Somebody said something about it, so I went and looked at it.
Yeah.
But
so
sorry, carry on. I'm listening.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I actually, more than not, I get that person that comes in, says, hey, I need a ball. I give my suggestions. They're out the door within 20, 30 minutes. Yeah. Most of the time than not, because you spit out all the information, especially if it's a new person. You know, if it's someone new that you don't really know, and then you ask them, you know, what balls you like. I give my suggestions, and then they go, oh, okay, well, let's do it. Rarely do I find a person that's like, hey, let's, you know, I've gotten a couple people within the last like month or two that it's like, hey, let's really dial it back and see what I have and kind of want to compare it to what's coming out, or what's nowadays, and
Yeah.
because I want to start bowling stuff other than house shots.
Yeah.
No, I get it. We luckily, like I said, we're lucky enough to have several tournaments around here a month that we get to bowl on stuff that's not just house. So, and even when we bowl on the doubles now, we don't bowl on house.
It's a modified.
It's modified that it still tames the scores a bit, I think.
I mean, look at all the scores in Ohio. I mean, I would never want to touch that state. Like, if I was a tournament bowler out there, they only bowl on house.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Jody Boyd's stuff. He's a great tournament director. He does great stuff. But they're not hard. You see Michael Holloman, you see Brandon Novak. They're shooting 300 and 400 over every single time, and it's like that's not bowling. Where like CBA's Central Bowlers Alliance out in Minnesota, there's like cuts negative 100 because it's hard. There's 90 bowlers that come out, and they take 1 and 3, and it's usually 24 they can take max sometimes, depending on what center it is. It's negative 100, negative 90 because they're hard.
I like that number.
Leading qualifiers 100. Like, what was it? What was I on? I can't remember what. Beijing maybe was one of the harder ones. I was like 130 over, and I was leading, and the cut was like negative 120.
I don't think I'm bold in that.
Well, and that's why, again, swinging back to it, that's why I can sympathize with Big Mike, because at some certain point, the conditions get so easy that it kind of smashes everything up to the top. Or if you're not at some certain point, carry can cause an effect if you just don't get the hits every game. If you're not averaging 250 just because you get tapped here and there, you can be out of it where you're actually bowling a better game. You were more consistent. You threw the ball better than somebody else that maybe is outscoring you just because sometimes it's like they're not as accurate, and so they're not burning up the lanes as fast as you are. So you're actually screwing yourself by throwing better shots.
Yeah.
And so at some certain point, I can sympathize with that. But if you bowl in handicap leagues, you're still signing up. If you bowl in a handicap tournament, you're still the one signing up. You can choose what you get to go bowl, but at the same time, people generally choose the easier stuff so that they feel like they have a chance, whether they have one or not.
Yeah.
Which is because on the tougher tournaments, like if we have a doubles, we have a lot of 8-game sweepers around here. If we have a doubles tournament that's going to be on a, house shot, kind of a, not necessarily a challenge pattern, but a recreational pattern, and Packy and Trevor show up to bowl together, you're done. You're bowling for second place, and probably not even bowling for second place because Dylan's going to be bowling with somebody else. And Austin Bowles is going to be bowling with somebody, and whatever else. I mean, if Packy and Trevor show up on a house shot for 8 games, you're not getting close. Whereas if it's a tougher pattern,
Trevor and Dylan have won every double.
Trevor Baumgartner.
Oh. Lefty.
Yeah, he's a lefty that's the best lefty that you've never heard of. Him and Packy, he's as good as Packy at least.
But Trevor has no desire to go on tour.
Trevor doesn't
it's like
want
Shea. It's like Shea Bittenbender.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy would literally win everything. He's such a nice guy, too.
Yeah.
I've talked to him many times.
Trevor is a left-handed Shea Bittenbender.
Okay.
100%.
Shea wins everything.
Shea is God. I mean, if Shea goes to, we're getting ready to go to Tulsa, the Greater Tulsa Open here. If Shea does not win some event at Tulsa, it's a bad weekend. And that's a tournament that goes for 6 or 7 weekends. And
he's just that good. I mean, he's so good.
But that's the thing, is that somebody like him he has a good enough thing going. He doesn't want to go beat his brains in and throw that. That's why you have a lot of better bowlers that show up to tournaments, and they don't necessarily get in a whole bunch of brackets because at like the Masters and the US Open, there's brackets available.
Yeah, they just don't want to.
But they don't want to get in brackets and pass money back and forth.
No.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so somebody like Shea can have a good career, a stable job, and go out and beat up this tournament here or there, still be competitive. It's like, okay, well, he just goes and beats up house shots. No, he does a whole lot more than that. He is really competitive no matter whether the shot's easy, whether it's hard, whatever else. He could compete out on tour if he wanted to. But there again, it's spending thousands to make hundreds.
Yep. Him and Tim are bowling Kevin's tournament next weekend, the $10,000 doubles.
Uh-huh.
And they're bowling on house on that again. It was ridiculous last year. It was like 400 something over to make the cut.
But
they choose to bowl. The very first year they did it, they bowled it on a pattern. I don't remember why they switched it. Something.
And these are, I mean, well, and that's the thing, because Lockwood and I bowled it.
Yeah.
It is 7 games qualifying, and
you bowled it when it was a house, though.
Yeah, it was tougher. So
yeah. You said you bowled it when it wasn't house, though.
Yeah. It was the first year they did it when it was tough. It was some PWBA tournament or some PWBA pattern, which are just ridiculous nuts. And we didn't make it. Yeah. But everybody that made it, Prather, I mean, literally half the PBA tour was there.
Mm-hmm.
Buttriff, Matt Sanders, Prather, Frankie. You can keep naming Michael Holloman. Kevin, of course, bowled his own tournament. But you can keep naming off names, and they were there.
Frankie's won it every year, I think.
Yeah.
He won it again last year and the year before.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, these guys that just know that they can win all the time. I mean, Matt Smith in the comments said, how good would PJ Haggerty if he bowled full-time tour? It's more of like you have your full-time job versus so you know you can make money and then do regionals on the side.
Mm-hmm.
But he wins everything. I mean, he won 4 regionals back-to-back weekends.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But financially, it's better because there's not much money in bowling unless you're winning everything like Belmonte or Kyle Troop last year, almost making $500,000.
Yeah.
It's just a better financial decision to have a full-time job, do regionals on the side, win, $1,000 or a couple $100, and that's for the kids to spend.
God, and even when you're winning regionals, like Anthony,
2,800.
Sean,
it was Anthony.
No,
Sean.
The one that's on the motive.
It was Sean, yeah.
And it's like $2,800, and I'm sitting here just doing the numbers in my head, and it's kind of like, okay, even if you're splitting a room with somebody and you're like going easy on the food and whatever else, you're still spending, and you have to win.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win
to make money.
Yep. Because you're still spending the amount of time that you're going to be there to win the tournament. Even if you're splitting a room with somebody, gas, hotel, food, whatever else, you're still spending several $100s.
Oh yeah.
And so you make $2,000 in a weekend. That's if you have a couple rough tournaments, that's gone.
Yep.
Just gone.
It is.
And you have to be single. You have to be kind of a drifter.
Yep.
It's just one of those things you can't have any kind of a normal. And some people don't want, like Kevin Williams again. Casey Murphy is a very good friend of ours. Him and Kevin bowl a lot of stuff, but they're very different people. Kevin loves he's got his rap career and he's got the bowling thing. He loves, that kind of element. Casey likes things a little bit on the safer side. Him and his wife have a very good job. They have a family, whatever else. Kevin does fine for him. Does just fine for himself too, but it's a whole different type of lifestyle.
Yep.
Because he won a tour and then didn't bowl next week.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did. That's right.
But yeah, Kevin
not bowl the next week. He said, "No, I'm going home."
Yeah.
Why not? You just won $40,000 or whatever it is. Might as well go home. Save a week.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself of how much Bolero put into the national tour prize fund and didn't put anything into the regional side. Like it was just pushed towards the national, and that's it. So it doesn't draw anybody to the regional side.
Yeah.
They've got to do something better about that, though.
That's the problem, is that when they had all those special tournaments, those kind of fun, or not necessarily fun tournaments, but the side tournaments where you had the same like 10 or 12 people at every single special little event or whatever. People like seeing their favorite bowlers, but you don't want to tune in every single time and see, okay, it's Belmo and Troop again. I get it.
Yep.
You want to see some underdogs. You want to see some new people. You can't just rely on the same people that you have bowling the stuff all the time. And so that's why, again, where it's like, okay, well, if you're bowling, if we have all this equipment, there's such a barrier to entry to getting to the higher levels of the game, where if you ban the equipment, make shots tougher, people will figure it out more from day one. They will then, it's just the natural progression of their own skill as to whether they get better or not. But at the same time, it completely shrinks any kind of a skill gap. Bowling has a ridiculous skill gap right now.
Yes, it does.
Ridiculous across the board. It has a skill gap, a money gap, and so there's so much more separation between. I mean, you have to have all these, dozens of bowling balls. You have to know how to lay them out, what surfaces. You have to know all kinds of different things. Then you have to go out there and throw. You have to be accurate throwing them. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to play straight. You have to be able to play deep. You have to be insanely versatile to be able to, succeed consistently.
Yeah.
And if you remove the equipment, you standardize lane conditions, you standardize the equipment, you shrink that skill gap. And I'm not sure which is better for bowling. I just don't know.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, here's the end all be all. It's a matter. We're all at the mercy of the pins. If the pins are a little offset, it doesn't matter what equipment, what lane surface it is. You can smash the pocket for 14 different ways and shoot Dutch 200s the whole time.
We have certain centers here in Kansas City where the it's famously been said, why do we need tougher conditions when the racks are sport compliant?
That's a fact.
So
hey, there's a center out in Eau Claire that has like notoriously offset racks, but they honestly carry better that way.
Oh, not this one.
At least me personally, don't know about anybody else,
Not
but
this one
the
that
more
comes from
offset, the better at that center.
yeah, we have one where you don't want to see. You hope that the tournaments that you're at, 1 and 2 are not being used. You hit 5 and 6 and 9 and 10. If you hit 3 and 4 and 7 and 8, you're not cashing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
We had
the last regional that I bowled in Lockport.
Oh, okay.
It's 10 after 12 after. 8. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, last regional I bowled in Lockport. I was bowling next to Eugene McEwen, and he at one point just ripped his grips out.
Yeah.
And of his UFO alert, and then just had just the holes, and he just started lofting it, ripping on it, sending out to 5 and still ripping like 9 pins.
My goodness.
And then you go to the next pair and it doesn't even wrinkle. I mean, the pair to pair, and that's what I said way before of like transitions and everything. They're just so much different.
Oh, yeah.
Puppy. Thank you.
And a lot of that even has to go back into topography too. So.
And so, yeah, I think the final, my second article that I wrote was a whole lot. It's just like, okay, fine. We're just going to put it all out there. We're going to talk about it from every single angle. And I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm just going to say what I think. The thing is that there's such a ridiculous amount at the end of the day. There's such a ridiculous amount of variables in bowling. You can't make it fair. You can't make it even. You can't make it equal. Even as easy as you can make the conditions, you can ban reactive balls, or as tough as you can make the conditions, people are going to find a way to score, and people are going to find a way to score in bunches. Like the Masters last year was supposed to be hard, and it just wasn't.
Yeah.
You get on a TV show and
Think about Simon with the backup ball.
yeah. It just, and
people will adapt to anything.
Yeah, and that's the thing is the two major rules about bowling: stay behind the line, knock the pins down. And people get so uppity about it's like, well, this isn't the spirit of the game. It's like, well, sure, it's not, but you stay behind the line, you get the pins down. Like I saw a video on Instagram the other day of the kind of helicopter ball from overseas.
Oh, yeah.
The spinner ball. You just kind of spin
UFO.
it right down the middle and get the pins to go sideways and bounce all over the place. Is that real bowling? What exactly is real bowling, and how do we get there, and how do we you know, it reminds me of, I don't know for the people that are into video games or whatever, but and whether you think that esports is actually a thing, competitive Call of Duty, they ban everything. Like every year, you have like 2 or 3 assault rifles you can use, 2 or 3 submachine guns. Can't use rocket launchers. They only play on a couple maps. They only play a couple game modes. They basically like ban everything in the game so that it's, you know, has its integrity, or you don't have any cheap rocket launchers or you know, LMGs or shotguns or anything else. And they strip it so far down that it's like, is anybody actually using strategy here? Is this, you know, if we went back to urethane and plastic balls on specific types of conditions, and you reduce the amount of variables as much as possible to where everybody's basically in the same place doing the same thing, you boil it down to like a darts competition. And at that point, why do you need the pins?
It's fair.
If it's an accuracy competition, then the pins are just going to get in the way, because it's such an bowling carry is so arbitrary that you can have, there's, I mean, everybody's had a night where they've shot 750 on a night they should have shot 620, and 620 nights that should have been 750.
Yep.
So,
or maybe carried a couple Brooklyns or light swishers in the 300. I mean,
and that's the thing is, do we not allow Brooklyns anymore? Are we going to limit rev rates and speeds? And how do we make it fair? How do we the only thing that I can think of, again, is to just have it like it is. Whatever condition you're on, all you can do is, you know, KU.
Yep.
We don't usually pay attention to football, but they're halfway decent this year.
I'm not listening to you.
But all they can do is play the schedule in front of them. They'll talk about, okay, well, this NFL team did really well this year, but they had a super easy schedule. It's like, well, what else could they have done?
Or they changed it mid-season.
Yeah, the schedule was set. They won the games that were set in front of them, or like when it comes to college football, more specifically.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, okay, well, they had an easy schedule this year. It's like, well, they won all the games that you put in front of them. What else can they do?
The first 3 games they actually scheduled themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that or not.
So
it's like the non-conference games they schedule.
Yeah.
Pros actually do not schedule.
Outside of paying Alabama, you know, $500,000 to come play you,
It'd cost more than that.
Yeah, exactly. So outside of doing that,
we get to play them for free. How about that?
Yeah. What else can you do? And bowling, I think, is the same thing. It's like the equipment adds variables.
Yeah.
The different centers add variables. The different patterns add variables. If you want to enjoy it at a recreational level and think you're hot shit because you shoot 300, 800 every once in a while and average 230, I'm more than content to let somebody do that at the recreational level. Get your rings, submit your paperwork or whatever else, and think that you're cool and your little, it's like Dazed and Confused, where Matthew McConaughey is like 25 or 26 hanging out with the high schoolers. I mean, do you want to be? Yeah, do you want to be that guy?
Just let the guy do that.
Yeah.
Just let the guy do that. What's bad about that? Because he's not going to do anything outside of that. He's not going to go to. He's not going to go to the U.S. Open. He's not going to go to the Masters or regionals. Yeah. He just wants to be in his own space where he can average 220, 30, shoot a couple 300s a year, and drink beer with the guys.
And see, I call those people Napoleon Dynamite. I call him Uncle Rico. Uncle Rico.
You hate on Uncle Rico in my presence.
He's still got his leather jacket.
No.
He's still got that stupid van. He's out there trying to make little, videotapes of him throwing a football or whatever.
Throw a pigskin a quarter mile. You watch your mouth.
There are some people that are Uncle Rico.
Just
let him. Yeah, exactly. Just let him be Uncle Rico.
Let him be him.
If they want. I don't know how many times
What's wrong with that?
Like, you know what? I've really got dreams of winning out on the tour. I just need Hammer to sponsor me so that I can go win.
Well, I tried for years to get on staff with them, but they just.
I did.
They said maybe next year. They didn't have enough room.
Bastards.
How do you get on staff? I've tried for years.
Yeah.
Years and years and years. If Hammer would just sponsor me, I'd win out there a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Go team.
I've had guys quit because they didn't get on staff. Like
That's
even like our local tour, like guy that I talked to, even beaten the step ladder match, or beaten in a step ladder match, and he just said, yeah, or won a player of the year. Said, nah, I'm just done. Storm didn't give me a contract this year, so I'm just done. Tried for years.
That's
but he knows he can beat everybody.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's pretty bad, though.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason they didn't give him a contract.
Because they're not in a pro shop.
Yeah.
It's the main thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I get what, and it's a very good series of articles to follow. I will, of course, say mine are exceptional, but you can go, Big Mike wrote one. I wrote a couple. Jerry Kessler, the JK Jerry Kessler, wrote one. Hugh Miller actually submitted one that he wrote in 1998 that was very, very, I thought that was the best one out of all of them because it actually gave you the history of, it's not like easy conditions are just a recent thing. Like since the 70s, they've been talking about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've been having a problem with this for 50 years now. And so it's one of those things where it's like, well, we didn't have reactive balls 50 years ago. So this was a problem when there was urethane and plastic balls. And so it's obviously not the equipment. You can make people use whatever equipment you want to make them use with the lane patterns. But the problem is, like the US Open a couple, 6, 7, 8 years ago when they were lofting 30 feet, people will find ways to overcome, adapt, do whatever they have to do. Anthony Simonson, again, like you said, with the backup ball, people are going to find ways to knock the pins down.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not bowling, I don't know what is, because they did that back when they had bug sprayers and plastic balls and rubber balls and whatever else, and it looked absolutely awful. But people knew how to knock the pins down no matter what kind of nonsense was going on out there. And I think it's still kind of the same today, is it's just about staying behind the line, knock the pins down, and it doesn't matter how hard they make the conditions, people are going to find a way to score. So
you're saying it was a problem since Elvis was alive?
Yeah.
I just watched that movie. That was a good one.
I actually, that is a great movie, actually.
Well, I mean, it's a problem of like most guys are swinging it now, and I see a lot of people that would hate the guy that's actually playing up the lane and throwing it harder later into the block.
Yeah. Because
like,
that's
why hate that guy? That's the only thing that they can do.
And that's kind of funny because that's not real bowling. People have talked about, there was, Ryan Essman here in town.
Yep.
He is basically the male Liz Johnson.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's the male Liz Johnson because he just puts it right down 5, 6, 7 and just walks into the pocket, throws it the same. He's the male Liz Johnson, period. But it's like, throws it like a pussy because he doesn't hook the ball, or he doesn't do, all he does is just kind of point it right down the corner. It's like, well, apparently that's real bowling. He's doing it with reactive balls, but apparently that's real bowling. So,
well, boys, I need to get home.
Yeah, so I need to get a snack.
I am home.
Yeah.
I need to get home and spend some time with my little one before she goes to bed.
I'm also home, but yeah.
She's not in bed already?
Yeah.
I'm the only one that's got to drive.
Yeah.
She's how old?
7.
And she's not in bed?
She just got home, actually.
Yeah.
She has gymnastics on Monday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So she's just getting home.
Still.
She'll probably go to bed around 9.
You want to say bye?
Which is a little later than I like, but
come here, Tweety Bird.
That's all right. It is what it is.
Come here, Tweety Bird.
She does pretty good when she doesn't have a ton of.
You want to say bye? You say bye.
She does it on Mondays and Wednesdays. So
I know.
Gotcha.
I wish I was in bed by now.
Yeah. I'm going to be in bed by 9. So, all right. Well, thanks a bunch for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on again.
As
good
always.
Luck. Good luck with your P5 when you get a chance to put holes in it and have some fun with it. And I'm a pretty big fan. I'm not going to be able to use it very much. I'm going to be forced back into IQ tours and UC3s and that kind of nonsense here. But It's part of the lefty
life.
Yeah. It's real bowling. That's the thing is left-handed bowling is real bowling because all we do is just chuck it right up second arrow with
14, 15, 16-pound urethanes.
Exactly.
All the weights.
That's real. That's what everybody's been saying. That's real bowling. So urethane balls up second arrow.
Hey, there you go.
Real bowling. So,
yep, they hate it when you use it.
Yep.
We're doing it. We're the realest group out there now, I guess.
The realest.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to get that made into a shirt or something.
Will, thanks for being a friend of the show and hanging out with us again
Yeah.
for a second or third time now. One of the two. I think it's second time.
Yep.
I think we were actually on one of our first couple of our episodes of the actual breakdown pair. I don't remember if it was Rising Grinds or not, but
it was breakdown. I think it was episode 5 or 6.
We still have the TV behind us. So yeah, thank you for being our first second time guest.
Yeah.
So awesome.
So
We
yeah,
appreciate
we'll
it.
have you back again as long as you want to keep showing up to
Hang out with these two idiots.
Yeah.
I need to get on the Patreon side of Discord because the pit of despair is getting me a little frustrated.
The pit of despair.
We will figure that out for you because we've got like 20 other channels on the other side of the wall.
Yes,
so I think we can figure something out there. So
we appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Thanks a bunch. We'll see you later.
Yes, sir.
Roger.
See you later.
Yep.
All right. So let me see.
It's just these two.
I'm going to put this comment up here because the problems with tournaments and generalized scoring because by a lack of newer people coming in and an exodus of people leaving for the mid-tier bowling. No, I really don't think so because it's been like we talked in the articles. Bowling was going to have problems anyway because it's expensive. It's very time consuming. People don't have time for that anymore.
Yeah.
That's why golf has kind of been going the same way it's gone too, because it just, you can get a month of Disney Plus for $10 and a bag, a pack, 6-pack of popcorn for $8 or $7 or something like that. People have so many more things competing for their time and their money, especially if you have kids too, because you're already in, she's 7 and you're already into the thick of it. Just wait until she gets into high school.
Don't remind me.
And she's only 1. That's just one of them.
That's plenty.
So it just, people have so many more things competing for their time and money. When you sign up for a league, it's 34, 35 weeks. Even if you do half, it's not in a bowling center's best interest to do like half season stuff. Even then it's 14, 15 weeks.
They're guaranteed money for 34 weeks.
So
I don't blame them.
Yeah. And it's an entire weeknight. Most of the time you get home from work, you have enough time to pack the car up. You either don't eat anything or you eat at the bowling alley. Yep. You have a couple drinks, whatever else.
Yep.
It's a $40, $50 night that takes up the entire evening. You can't get anything done.
Yep.
And that's if you bowl one league.
It's fact.
So it's just bowling has its own problem with its own structure, period. Like just going golfing, you don't have to have your own clubs, but you kind of have to have your own clubs. And then you go ride 18, most places it's $35. And then you have a couple beers and whatever else. And it takes 4 or 5 hours.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, it's going to take this amount of time. It's going to cost this much money. You got to have your own clubs. That's why I've been golfing twice in the last 3 years.
I've golfed more than that.
3 times actually.
Golfed here.
Yeah, we golfed a whole 2 times here just for that tournament.
I played a couple times since then though.
So yeah, I haven't. Yeah, that's all I played in the last 3 years is just that, which is fun to get out there and do it.
I enjoy to do that more than I do bowling in the summer.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that when we go out to golf, we're just trying to get out there and have a couple drinks and chase this stupid little white ball around in the sun and
at least in bowling the ball comes back
have
to
some
me.
fun. Yeah. And that's the thing. So I have a really hard time begrudging people that want to stay inside and have a couple beers and
AC.
chuck a ball around at some weird looking sticks for a couple hours and then get out of Dodge.
Yep. No, I get it.
And so if they happen to, I had a birdie when we were out at Forbes And so it's like, is that any less of a birdie than some pro shoots on a course? So I mean, I can say the 200-yard par 3 and I got a birdie.
Birdie's a birdie to me.
Yeah, birdie's a birdie. If you go out and shoot a 300, whatever else. I mean, I suck the rest of the time, but I got a birdie.
Yep. No, like, birdie's a birdie to me.
Go 170, 300, 170, and they still shot 300.
Yep.
We've all had nights like that.
Absolutely.
Even being good bowlers. 300, 200, 160 one time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of them things, but it happens on the recreational side of things when you're just out there and not really caring. And we were just trying to get some reps in for the tournament the next day.
Yep.
And then we had fun at the tournament. We didn't do that well. We did okay between the four of us. Again, it's one of them things where it's it was a scramble. So there was four of us. So if we each had to play our own ball, it would have been a different story. But
I mean, we got third place first flight.
Yeah. So I
terrible.
mean, but
we'll do it again next year.
Yeah, because it's fun.
It is fun.
And
frustrating. But fun.
Yeah. And Lake Shawnee is not the easiest course.
Yeah, but it's a
not,
nice course.
it's a nice course. It's fair.
Long.
But I wouldn't. I call it a house shot course. I mean, like it's a challenge. Maybe it's the golfing equivalent of Kegel Chromium or something. Maybe it's a challenge pattern.
I could see that.
But even then,
Just
it's not.
got a
Have
lot
you
of
been at the
trees.
Firekeeper?
I have not played.
It's not Firekeeper.
Firekeeper, I'm sure is hard.
Firekeeper's nuts. Firekeeper's not red square, but it's whatever the hell we bowled out of Swiss Trios.
Yeah, that's hard.
It's fire. Yeah, that's Firekeeper. So anyway, he's got to get out of here. I got to get the snack. Thanks to Will for showing up. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Will.
Phase 5 and Hustle Go, and not the Hustle, the Electrify Go, Gold Orange. That'll be out on October 21st. We've got some new stuff coming out. The Paint the Lane Pink. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. October. They sold all the pink physicses, but they have quite a few Paint the Lane's pink products on stormbowling.com to go check out and order, pick up. A lot of pink stuff. A lot of pink stuff is cool. I actually have a phase pink. Maybe I'll close the show with that. I'll go get my phase pink out here and I'll show that off for a second and then we'll get out of here.
Okay. Where is it at?
It's up here somewhere. Where should I put it? No, it's down here with the phase. There we go.
And you found it. Scared me. Oh, there it is. Yep.
So this is the ball from a couple of years ago.
It looks red right there.
Yeah, it does look red.
It's pink.
It's it's R2S hybrid. It's a two-tone pink ball. It's got the ribbon on there. But so they got plenty of Paint the Lane's pink stuff on there. Very cool. So anyway, yep. Thanks everybody for hanging out. We appreciate it. We will see you next week.
Same time, same place.
Yep, same bat time, same bat channel. For those of you old enough to remember that. And we will hit you with the intro for the outro. Cool Wick. Yeah.
Turbo Storm.
Yeah,
all
Cool Wick, Turbo Storm, whatever.
All the cool stuff.
Rosedal 10, Haas 10. Follow us on the Breakdown Pair. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Discord server, Patreon, whatever else. Yeet.
Yeet. Have another beer, buddy.
Chatty chat. I think that they probably said that being shorter is advantageous.
Well, they need to teach me then. There you go. So we had to poke a little fun at him. Call you Ginger Swag.
Yeah. If you weren't bowlers, what would you have liked to have done instead? Anything else. Literally anything else.
That's a great answer.
The horse is so dead that it's on some kid's school project on a landfill already.
And there you have
that one before.
it. No. We'll talk to Ninja one more.
Terrible idea.